This brief lesson will review some of the statistics that we can find from a set of data, as well as using a ClassPad calculator to compute those values. And then we'll look at the mean and the standard deviation and how these are connected with the spread of the data. So we have a small set of data here. Remember, this sigma, capital sigma, means the sum of the x values. So 3 plus 5 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 is 12. N is the number of values, that's 5. And then the mean is calculated by taking the sum of the scores and dividing by the number of scores. So 12 divided by 5, which is 2.4. The variance is found by subtracting the mean from each of the original scores, squaring these values, finding the average of those squares. So firstly, subtract the mean from each of the original scores, square each of these values and add them together, and divide by the number of scores. So that's 13.2 divided by 5, which is 2.64, and the standard deviation is the square root of the variance, so that's 1.62 to 2 decimal places. Now, a calculator with statistical functionality, such as a ClassPad calculator, will calculate each of these values. So in the statistics application, type in the 5 values in the data set and then select Calc 1 variable. The first value is the mean. We have the sum of the scores. We have n, the number of scores, and we also have the standard deviation, which is sigma x. Now, standard deviation is a measure of spread, and we talk about data being within a certain number of standard deviations from the mean. For most distributions, the vast majority of scores will lie within 3 standard deviations from the mean. So the lower boundary of that would be the mean subtract 3 standard deviations, and the upper boundary would be the mean plus 3 standard deviations. Anything outside of this range would be considered an outlier in the data. For this particular set of scores, the mean is 22.4. Before you go any further, you should check that you're able to calculate these two statistics from this set of data. Now, part A is asking how many scores are such that they lie within 1 standard deviation of the mean. So we've got the mean subtract the standard deviation and the mean plus the standard deviation. How many of the scores lie within 1 standard deviation of the mean? And it's these scores from 19 to 31. 13 is outside of this range and 32 is outside of this range. So 9 scores lie within 1 standard deviation of the mean. Part B asks how many scores lie within 2 standard deviations of the mean. So if we take the mean and subtract 2 standard deviations, that's 3.68. And if we take the mean plus 2 standard deviations, that's 41.12. The only score which is outside of this range is the 44. So we have 14 scores which lie within 2 standard deviations of the mean. If we calculate the mean subtract 3 standard deviations and the mean plus 3 standard deviations, that's negative 5.68 and 50.48, you can see that all of the scores do lie within this range.